17th century, the Vatican secret archives were separated from the Vatican Library in the Vatican City. Sealing the official papal repository to outsiders and sequestering the more than 53 miles of records inside. Only the Pope and 4 other officials are known to have access to the vault. Although researchers may request to view an artifact under supervision only if they can prove it exists. So you have to hear a rumor, and then you have to go asking for that specific rumor, or the evidence of that rumor, to know what it's in, to be able to find it, and you can only view it supervised. So, among the secrets rumored to be hidden is evidence that Jesus did not exist, and that aliens, demons, hold influence over the church. Very interesting. You can look up Dark 5 and see 5 topics that he brings up each time. Like 5 secret meetings that decide the fate of the world. What we watched was 5 most secret rooms in the world. Alright. Now some of us have seen on Google Images let's see if I can pop it up in just a couple words. There it is. Most of us have seen this painting before. So, most of this isn't new to any of us. It's an interesting painting. It's called A Demon Versus the Pope, but I highly doubt that's a versus. Anyway, we're going to look at something real quick before we get started.
Welcome everyone back to the Real News Network. I'm Jared Ball here in Baltimore. With Thanksgiving coming up this weekend, we want to talk about the myths related to this holiday. Although we're taught at a young age that indigenous people and pilgrims sat together and happily feasted, the violent and colonial origins of this holiday are frequently ignored. And although we also historicize the land theft and the genocide against indigenous communities, let us not forget that this is something that is still happening today. So here to talk about this with us is Tara Hauska. Tara is Ojibwe from the Couchiching First Nation. She is a tribal rights attorney in Washington, D.C., a co-founder of NotYourMascots.org, and a contributor to Indian Country Today Media Network and the Huffington Post. Tara, welcome to the Real News.
Thank you for having me.
Can you talk with us a little?
Now, I find this kind of funny, is that this guy is sitting here talking to this woman about the original people and of America, the original Americans, and this is what the Europeans that control us, this is what they make a statue to: Seminole Negro Indians. Okay? Thomas Jefferson fights the Indians, enslaves them. When they come out of slavery, they are freed slaves or Negroes, yet today these people abandon that real history for this plagiarized history. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to do this one more time. Now that you're looking at it from, well, you've heard my perspective. Let's listen to this now.
Welcome everyone back to the Real News Network. I'm Jared Ball here in Baltimore. With Thanksgiving coming up this weekend, we want to talk about the myths related to this holiday. Although we're taught at a young age that indigenous people and pilgrims sat together and happily feasted, the violent and colonial origins of this holiday are frequently ignored. And although we also historicize the land theft and the genocide against indigenous communities, let us not forget that this is something that is still happening today. So here to talk about this with us is Tara Hauska. Tara is Ojibwe from the Couchiching First Nation. She is a tribal rights attorney in Washington, D.C., a co-founder of NotYourMascots.org, and a contributor to Indian Country Today Media Network and the Huffington Post. Tara, welcome to the Real News.
Thank you for having me.
Can you talk with us a little bit about the actual roots of what we now call Thanksgiving here in the United States?
Sure. I mean, I think the history of Thanksgiving actually comes from this understanding that the Wampanoag tribe sat down with the pilgrims and gave them, gifts of venison, 5 deer, and they shared this kind of very friendly meal. The actual myth of Thanksgiving didn't really come into play until the 19th century, but that's I think that's the event that people use as that kind of common storyline.
How do you think that, a lot of people will obviously say that, we gather to see our families, to eat good meals, to watch football, to enjoy a day off from work, and we're not actually celebrating the genocide of indigenous populations. How do you think that settlers and other groups of people and other participants in this holiday should orient themselves to work for indigenous justice?
I definitely don't think that people are celebrating the genocide of indigenous people. I think there are Native Americans that will celebrate Thanksgiving tomorrow. I mean, I'm certainly going to be with friends and family and have a meal and watch football. It'll be a great day. But I think that what you can do to actually counteract this negative history is by teaching real history. And so I know for a fact that today across America, I guarantee there are hundreds of classrooms that are engaging in constructing paper headdresses and perpetuating this myth of happy Indians and happy pilgrims and kind of overlooking the entire history of what really happened to indigenous people.
You're also heavily involved in a number of current struggles around image and symbolism of Native Americans, of indigenous populations, around the football team there in Washington and other athletic teams as well. How do you situate that struggle and the struggle around the mythology and symbolism of this holiday season with the actual conditions of the people themselves? I mean, if I have it correct, I believe that the average Native American, particularly those still living on reservations, lives on less than $2 a day. But we have this popular mythology around indigenous people with casinos and other mythologies around government handouts or payback or even reparations for those histories. What are the actual conditions of most Native Americans in this country, or even in the Americas generally?
I think it's that's a very common thread to kind of paint Native Americans with this broad picture. There are 567 federally recognized tribes in the United States, and they have a whole range of cultural practices, beliefs, economic development. It's not just all casinos are all destitutely poor. That's not how it works, and I think that there's this tendency to paint with a broad brush because that's what we've always done. We've always made Native Americans into this monolithic culture. I mean, that's what mascots do. That's what this Thanksgiving storyline does. It makes all the Indians the same. And that's certainly not the case. We're very, very, very diverse people, and it ranges all over this country depending on where you're geographically at, what the resources available to you are. It's a very, very diverse situation out there in Indian country.
So Tara, before we leave, are there any issues or current struggles that you're involved with that you can let our audience know about to perhaps support or join?
Sure. So right now in Arizona, there's the Apache Stronghold is actually fighting to save their sacred site. It was given by the federal government to a foreign mining operation and it's set to be destroyed. actually, that's called Oak Flat. You can learn about that and help those people. They're grassroots. They're organizing right now to save their homelands. And you can right now there's the tar sands issue. We know that Keystone XL just went through, but the tar sands are continuing to be extracted up in Alberta, so that's happening. There are a number of different issues right now. Actually, next week there's going to be in Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is trying to remove what little jurisdiction Native Americans have over non-Indians and into the reservation. And so basically our right to prosecute and criminally defend and protect our people is being challenged in the Supreme Court, and that's happening next week. So there are a lot of different things you can do, and the Supreme Court thing, that'll appear in Washington, D.C. So come down and show your support.
All right, well, Tara Halster, thank you again for joining us here at the Real News Network.
Absolutely, thank you.
And thank you for joining us here at the Real News. Again, for all involved, I'm Jared Ball in Baltimore saying, as Fred Hampton used to say, to you we say peace if you're willing to fight for it. So peace, everybody, and we'll catch you in the whirlwind.
Okay, so technically he just said peace to you if you're willing to fight for it. Alright, and we all know that we're all fucking spoiled and lazy, so we're not really willing to fight for anything except for food. So that's why they've done all this stuff with food, because they want to get us fighting. And they want to keep us uneducated, so we just fight with sticks and stones. They don't want us to be able to do anything constructive, like thinking. Now, you've just heard this Canaanite tell you that there's all types of indigenous people. Now, I can go and get the interview of Farrakhan, and we can watch the man that believes he's a Phoenician, or that hides the truth that they're the Phoenicians. We can watch him tell Farrakhan that if you went into a Muslim, a black church, that 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5, 3 out of 5, 5 out of 5 people that you touch on the shoulder are actually indigenous people. See, the way he says it is as if the real indigenous people are hidden from you, or a select branch of indigenous people are hidden from you. When we go to the Oxford Dictionary definition of nigger, the second and first edition, not the third edition, because this promotes that you're from Africa. When we go to the first and second edition of Oxford Dictionary, this is an elite school dictionary, a Ivy League school dictionary. It says in the third reference that it's derogatory term used towards American Indians. When you string all of these things together, it is then obvious that the Negro is the American Indian. We see that there is a problem because we have the same thing that we had in Egypt. We have Negroes that can blend in with Egyptians. Now, we have all sorts of Africans here, and nobody realizes it. We have a vast amount of Canaanites here, and nobody realizes it. People of Shem, I would assume, retain the name Asian, yet they've been conquered numerous times throughout history, and their names have been taken from them. I shall now prove this. In this Bible, it says the Sinite is a Canaanite. Historically, the people of Sin have changed to the people of Shin, and then the Shin have changed to the Shine of China, or China, as we pronounce it. Shina and China, the Shinese and the Chinese. The biblical name of the Chinese are the Sinite, as says in Genesis 10. If we look at Genesis 9 briefly, Genesis 9:24. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done to him. So, who's the youngest son? Ham is the youngest son. And what did the youngest son do? He saw his nakedness while he was drunk and passed out. If you'd like to pause this video and start at the beginning of the chapter and catch up with me at verse 25, you can do that. It'll make you smarter. You'll know more about it. And then when you go to Leviticus and you look up the sex laws, you'll understand it doesn't mention anyone in this except for Noah. It does not mention Noah's wife. It mentions Noah. And then you'll have more knowledge of what Ham, the youngest son, did to his father while his father was drunk and passed out. Verse 25. And he said, "Cursed be Canaan." So, he has 3 sons. He cursed his youngest son. So, what does he do unto his youngest son? He curses his youngest son's son. If you read this, like I suggested to you already, you know that Canaan's already born. That's why he knows his name. Cursed be Canaan, and a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. Let me explain this to you. We live in a caste system. You have Chinese, Japanese, you have Mongols, you have all sorts. You actually have black Africans here. They're Canaanites as well. The Perizzites, because they looked like the Israelites, they could not be moved. And who? I would assume as well, the Jebusites look like the Jacobites or Judahims, because they controlled the temple and then they lived amongst each other. So, assuming those two are Afro-heritage of Ham, that's just assuming, because it seems that everybody else mentioned in Genesis 10 under Canaan's bloodline doesn't look Afro at all. And I'll bring up a great point to prove this. Check this out. Israelites leave and go 40 years in the wilderness. They didn't walk around in circles. 40 years. They had to go through kingdoms or around kingdoms as they tried to use what's called the King's Road. Has anybody ever heard of the Silk Road? Where is the Silk Road? It's throughout Asia. Now, listen very closely. We saw the video of the temple, the 2,000-year-old temple, the prophecy of the Asians with beards that would go into slavery. We saw the man use the camera, go over there. We saw the Tyrone Street video. The man used his camera and recorded the information about Cambodia. That the Khmer people were Negro. And he went and he married, the king went and married the pale Chinese. The pale Chinese woman. And then the two peoples went to war together. And when the two peoples went to war together, the Chinese won. That meant those Afro people with beards that were Asian. See, the Chinese is the Shinnah, the Canaanite. So they won. Now you see what? Canaanite people living in Cambodia and in China. You see what happened? Europeans say the original people in Europe, the indigenous people of Europe, were Negro. Now they live in our ghettos. caste systems formed then. And those bearded Asians, those Negroes, they are then what? Marginalized. They are put on the bottom. Not to the sides, on the bottom. And the lighter you are, you rise to the top. That is what happened in those areas. You live in the same predicament. Some would derive the Americans from the Jews, others from the 10 tribes of Israel, carried it says Israel, not Israel. It says Israel. Carried into captivity, the ground of which opinion is, we think this because the ground of which opinion is that the Jews and the Israelites were scattered amongst all nations. Therefore, see, you leave the wilderness, you go into China. Some of you keep going with Moses. Some of you say this is good. The people that later say this is good. Later they are overthrown. The people that continue to Moses, eventually they break off into different sections. They get 12 different lands for their tribes. 12 separated areas separated by waterways, by rivers. Read it. You got to read the Old Testament. 12 areas separated by waterways for them to be able to grow. And if they fall away from their creator, if they fall away from their God, they will be overthrown and experience slavery. Some would derive the Americans from the Jews, other from the 10 tribes of Israel carried into captivity, the ground of which opinion is that the Jews and the Israelites were scattered amongst all nations. Therefore, they conclude that America was also peopled by them, though rather because the ancient Jews and the Americans were of one complexion. They just said, you came over here and had sex with all the Canaanites. It didn't matter what type of Canaanite it was, you had sex with it. If they had Canaanites with afros, you had sex with them. If the Canaanites was darker than you, you had sex with them. Now your babies is afros and darker skin. If they had straight hair Canaanites, you came over here, you had sex with them. Just like the Khmer people of Cambodia did with the Chinese people. And you made darker versions of them. If your forefather was darker and their ancestor was lighter, and you were the dominant gene, meaning the male gene, that's what carried on. I, you, me, we mingled amongst all of them. That Book of Mormon says most of our bastard seeds were wiped out. We are the remnant now, and of this remnant will be a dividend smaller. Our ancestors that would not bow to their Christian God or their Christian slavery. You do understand that we went to war and we lost. It was what? Catholic Inquisition and Christian slavery. Type in Christian slavery, they go show you black people. They will state that it's from what? 14 something to 19 something. And they'll tell you that Christian slavery ended. Rather because the ancient Jews and Americans were of one complexion, and they went alike habited, both going without shoes, only wearing sandals, and the upper coat of a shorter linen vest. And they always draw all Indians in nut cups, in deerskin pants. All Indians. Well, these kinds that were complexion like the Jews. What does a Jew look like? Well, good thing we have a Bible. Let's see if this matches in the Old and New Testament. Now, if it matches in the Old and New Testament, then we got a green light. If it says one thing in the Old Testament and something different in the New Testament, then we go with the Old Testament, because the Creator's mouthpieces are used in the Old Testament. Greek mouthpieces are used in the New Testament. Do we live in a Greek society, in a Greek caste system of white on top and dark on the bottom? Black people don't exist, and you all call yourselves black. And you got crazy white people that want to be black. Jeremiah was a prophet. Amos 9:7. What does a Jew look like? What does a Jew look like? Is it the people that they draw funny in cartoons that look like they're dominating the world? What does a Jew, a Judean, look like? What does someone from the tribe of Judah look like? What does a son of Jacob look like? Are ye not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me? Who said that? O children of Israel. Who said that? Saith the Lord. That's the Creator. I am that I am. That talked to Moses, met with Moses. Read the book of Jubilees. That walked with Abraham, ate with Abraham. He didn't come down and say, my name's Jesus. None of that happened. Nobody great came down and said, my name's Jesus. The Creator came down with Abraham, with Moses, with Enoch. Does Enoch say, Jesus is God? No. You've been lied to. You've been lied to in a series of events. It's a fantastic lie of reincarnation. Man is only to live once. The only thing that can reincarnate is Nephilim. If somebody's sitting there telling you, I live past lives, they're not human. What does a Judean look like? This Bible says a Judean looks like an Ethiopian, but is not a Hamite, is not African. I'm African American. I'm African American. Do you see what has been done unto you? You've been taught blasphemy so great. It's impeccable. You're running around with African flags, and Africa don't give two shits about you. If you were dropped off in Africa, you would not live to see the next day. The minute you spoke, they would kill you. Oh, I'm sorry. Unless you went to parts that are colonized with the caste system set in place. Have not I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt? And the Philistines, the Africans, the Philistines from Cathor. Those are Africans. Philistines are Cathor. Philistines are African. You're not. And the Syrians from Ker. Those people are living on Australia now because somebody's a land thief. Tiglath-Pileser moved them. Shalmaneser moved them. The same time he moved you. The destruction, what? Of Syria and who? The North Kingdom. The Israelites. That's when you were moved. They might have brought some of you back, but I highly doubt it. I bet they're still scattered. What does a Judean look like? What does a Judean look like? What doesn't a Judean look like? Here. I know thy works, and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy, the great lie of them which say they are you, and are not. Of them that say they are Judeans, and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. That's Revelation 2:9. What if we go to 3 and 9? What is so important of 2 and 9 and 3 and 9? Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are you and are not, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Where is that on the Ten Commandments? Don't they say that they're Jews, that they honor God, the Creator? In the Ten Commandments it says, thou shalt not lie. Don't they carry a great blasphemy of saying that they are you and are not, but do lie? Behold, I will make them to come and worship before your feet. You, the servant, has been at the bottom of the caste system. Only when you're worshiping the Creator. Not Allah, not Jesus, not Black Jesus. What's the first commandment? No other God. Who said that? The God that created animals with Adam. That's who said that. That's who said that. And you guys are still worshiping other gods. And you call the Creator whatever you want. And He already told you. He put you in slavery for blaspheming His name. You called other people the Creator. You gave other entities the title of creation. You gave them veneration for God's work instead of giving the Creator veneration for His own work. You twisted His name. When His name was twisted, you didn't study to untwist it. Literally, people are running around saying Yah is the name of God. That's what you say to get animals to move. Yah, or I'll beat you. Self-defense, you say Hiya. That's the way it is. That's the way He wrote it. I can't help that. I'm not making this up. I got it from the same books that you use to translate everything else. Then you want to cry, oh, that's not God's name. God's name is I will be that I will. The only thing that translates in that sentence is am. Look up the word will be. Am is what translates, and it translates to a name. This is how. Am, A-M, translates to a name. That's how you know. When you look up angel, everything in the Old Testament that deals with angel deals with one name, Malik. When you look up I am that I am is the only thing that translates in the Strong's Concordance. Translates to one thing, a name. People, you gotta wake up. You've been lied to on such a great scheme. That's why it's just called blasphemy. So you see, these are what Jews don't look like. And what does a Jew look like? Well, let's read. A Jew, or a Judean, his head and his hairs. Now, that's your head. So up here's your head. These are your hairs. Okay? His head's not white, but his head is. These are the hairs. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow. His eyes were as a flame of fire. That doesn't mean his eyes were red. That means, here, in our day and age, that means he looked freaking psychotic. His eyes were red with anger or a passion. Do you use vanity to say vain? No. Man, I forgot how to say it. Anyway, his feet like unto fine brass. Has anybody seen fine brass? That's kind of like gold. It's like a gold without just saying gold skin. And as if burned in a furnace. Do you guys ever see gold and then see what gold looks like with a shadow over it? Have you ever seen fine brass and then fine brass with a shadow over it? Here, I'll just look. I mean, you guys have seen other people use this before. I mean, it's so obvious because other people have looked it up before. Fine brass. And see images. That's what brass looks like. Okay? That's burned. That's the brass, and that's burned brass. That's fine brass. Oh, darker than that. See the burn marks in it? Where it's darker? Now, it's okay. I can put my forearm in front of the screen. Now you put your forearm up to the screen. There's nothing wrong with us comparing ourselves. There's a description written out. There's absolutely nothing wrong with us comparing ourselves to the description. This isn't for our ego. This is to know who the servants are. Now everybody wants to always pick and choose. Always. Now you pick and you choose. Is that the image of what Samson looked like? There's a lot of images here. Damn, these motherfuckers went pagan. Alright, so when you ask yourself, what is the description of a Jew? There's a description written all throughout the Bible. And here is the most infamous. Yet, it is the most hidden. If you ask people about Acts 13 and 1, most black people don't know about it. If you ask Caucasians about 13 and 1, if they know, they will avoid it. If you talk to somebody and you've seen their pattern of avoidance, of how they avoid things, whether it's anger, whether it's disruption, whether it's a red herring, you know, they've already laid out a pattern, and you look for that pattern to come back up, and that's how you know if they know what you know. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch. Now Horace Butler points out that Antioch, the Catholic Church, or the creation of the Catholic Church at Antioch, he believes is in Antigua, South America. This is where his studies lead Antioch Epiphanes to be, or Antiochus, his father. Now, if they're there fighting for the Greeks, that means the Greeks were down there as well. Now, there were in the church, if the Phoenicians are here, if that Indian's telling Farrakhan that the Indians are that his branch of Indians are Phoenician or phonetic, and the Phoenicians sailed the seven seas, that means the Greeks followed along with the Phoenicians. All right, that's inevitable. If one went to war with the other, they have to know what land they're on to go to war with them. Now there were in the church of Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that were called Niger. Niger is Latin for black. Niger olives, black olives, nigger olives, or nigger head. Is it olives or beans? But you see the point. This is the word nigger put in the Bible in the Latin phrase Niger. French for black is Nor. Negro, Nor, Niger. You can see how they all fit into the same word growth from N on forth. What are things you say with N? No. How do you deny people with the word no? Can I? No. Do you know? No. Where can I? No. Get out of here. No. That's how they act towards you. The worst that they act is a sundown town. Sundown is the highest of the what? The caste system. That is the worst you're going to get people that act towards you. During daylight, they will tell you to get out of town. They will tell you they don't want to sell to you. If they sell to you, that means that you'll get comfortable and you'll want to stay the night. That's why they want to usher you out of town fast. They will use shotguns to do that. They will consider that legal, even if in this day and age. Look up sundown towns. The internet will give you a listing of sundown towns. You can't trust anything on the internet. Okay. No. This is what's important. The term Niger, black, nigger, black skin is here. Oxford, first and second edition. Nigger, derogatory term towards an American Indian. What does it say? People of dark skin, of any origin. And then it refines. Why does it have a period and then continue? It refines itself to say early uses, American Indian. So we need to understand we're living in a system, a world system given over to the wicked. Everywhere we go and set up shop, what happens? We are overthrown and everything we create is used then against us. In the beginning of the Bible it says Abraham hung men from trees for their wickedness. During our segregation period of injustice that truthfully still continues to this day, hanging has been used against us in such a mental form, it's called lynching. Alright, so you can act like I'm just talking about things past. You can act like none of these things will happen today. We're told history repeats itself. I do not sit there and tell you and brainwash you with heaven, hell. I do not brainwash you with Jesus. The whole world did. I'm trying to correct that so that you understand when you die you will face the Creator on Judgment Day. How can you be sure? Hasn't everybody in your fucking life told you about Judgment Day? Go up to everybody and ask them about Judgment Day. Everybody will tell you the same thing. We all gotta face the Creator. This is the same Creator that says, worship me or go to hell. Nobody's worshiping Him. Are you getting my drift? Are you getting my drift? This is the same world that has mentally prepared you for Nazi regime 1, Nazi regime 2, Nazi regime 3, and Nazi regime 4. If you're not quite acquainted, everybody's waiting for the Fourth Reich because the first 3 already happened. I didn't prepare you for that. The world did. Everybody's fucking mouth. Not me. I didn't prepare you for World War I. I didn't sit there and chat in your ear about World War II. And I didn't sit there and say, we're expecting World War III. Everybody that you grew up with in your lives did. I didn't prophesy wickedness to come. Albert Pike did, and everybody part of his associated side of this put their chess pieces into place so that this could happen. All I did was tell you the truth. And a lot of you, all you did was just complain that you don't like the way that it's coming out. Wicked people talk nicer than you. Well, it's the opposite side of the coin, isn't it? Oppression will drive a wise man insane, right? All of you that look at me like I'm crazy, you're the ones that's really crazy. You think things are okay. There's a lot of you that truly understand that I'm sane. Don't worry, you're okay. Look. I've not threatened any group. I've not threatened any people. I've not said, come and join me in this place or that place. I have not said, I've not said, this is your enemy, go and attack it. I haven't said, that's your enemy, go and attack it. And that's why they can't take me down. I have not done anything that's considerably wrong. I can say the United States is evil is all I want. I'm telling you the truth. Here, let me show you something. And this is why I can do it. Because every time I say something, I back it up with their own evidence. Let's see. I'm going to read something to you. Airstrike hits Doctors Without Border hospital in Afghanistan. A crowded hospital. A crowded hospital. A hospital full of people. In the embattled city of Kunduz that treats war wounds came under attack on Saturday, not this Saturday, and the American military acknowledged that it may have killed 19 patients, staff members, and others at the facility while firing on insurgents nearby. Not in the hospital, nearby. So there are people nearby the hospital, so because I'm classified as a U.S. citizen, I'm not constitutionally protected, but I have rights to shop and temporarily lease stuff until the government wants it back. So I fired on them as well. So this is who I killed by sitting here and doing whatever I do per day throughout the day. And this is who I killed while I go to work and wash fucking dishes for rich people. I killed, I think the numbers are dumbed down, but I killed 19 patients, staff members, and others at that facility. Because I fired on insurgents that weren't even at the fucking facility. I could read other articles about this that are going to tell you that I, you, me, we fired on these innocent people that were already wounded, and some of them burned in their fucking hospital beds. I did this. I did this. I am the original American, and I have allowed them through my generations to take my name and title and use it any way they want. I have done this. I sit here constantly as a U.S. citizen, no different than any immigrant that comes over and gets the same status that I have. I sit here willingly and earn capital gain for this war machine to keep going. I must be held accountable for my actions. But not by them, not from the same people that dictate who we are going to kill. I cannot be held accountable by them. That's not right. I should be held accountable by the families of the dead. I, you, me, we, together should be held accountable. Because we sit here constantly. And as we sit here, that says it's okay. Our neglect results in their fucking death. Death! Not in just their land being stripped away and they come over here and come a little bit higher on the caste system because they're lighter than us. Because they're fucking dead. We are part of the Christian war machine now. All Christian slavery has obliterated our memory of our heritage. We are no more than African zoo animals, shot with tranquilizers, come over on a boat, and thrown down to perform in front of our captors. We have opposable thumbs. For fucking what? We're no better than the zoo animals. There's tranquilizers and everything we fucking eat and drink just to sedate us. Because we're savages that ran around in sandals and overcoats. We're savages, so they took our own words to seize the world. And every day, we kill more people so that we can continue shopping. Because we have stripped our resources from our land. So much so, we're still digging for new shit under ourselves, which causes holes that we fall through. We just keep digging. We just keep digging. Well, this Thanksgiving, I'd like you to remember, you're going to eat to celebrate your own destruction. Now, don't even worry that for years you've been celebrating Thanksgiving and it's the destruction of your ancient American heritage. That's what it actually is. Now, we're all in the same frying pan. I've warned you to leave so many times. Well, you might as well buckle up. Because if you're not leaving, you sure are going to have to be able to protect your home. While it's still legal, I would arm thyself. Well, listen, we're going into their unholy day season, and more massacres are happening every day. And, well, more staged massacres are happening every day. You guys have a pleasant time. I'm going to sit and do nothing on this day off I have. Remember, when you're sitting around with all your family, you can easily tell them that they're the American Indians and easily prove it to them. All you have to do is have studied up until this day, and you can pull out just some of the paperwork that I've shown you. You pop it up on screen, show your family. That's all you gotta do. You're not African. See ya.